There is something I want you to consider, truly consider, in the deep and still place within you where all real knowing lives, and that is this: nothing that has ever happened to you has been an accident. Not one moment, not one heartbreak, not one door that closed in your face, not one loss that brought you to your knees in the dark hours of a night when you were certain you could not survive the weight of it. Not one betrayal, not one failure, not one wrong turn, not one wound. None of it was random. None of it was meaningless. None of it was punishment. All of it, every single thread of your experience, the luminous and the devastating alike, all of it has been preparation. I want you to let that land somewhere deep inside you. Let it settle like light through water, because I know that for many of you, what I am about to say will feel, at first, like the hardest thing you have ever been asked to believe. You have been carrying the story that life happened to you, that the universe was indifferent, that the losses were just losses, the wounds just wounds, the years of confusion just wasted time. And I am here to tell you, gently but without hesitation, that this story is not true. It has never been true. And the moment you release it, truly release it, you will feel something shift in the very foundation of who you think you are. You see, the universe is not a random place. I have spent decades studying the ancient wisdom traditions, the Tao Te Ching of Lao Tzu, the teachings of Rumi, the Upanishads, the writings of William Blake, the mystical literature of every civilization that has ever turned its face toward the sky and asked the eternal question, why am I here? And the answer that echoes back across every culture, every century, every tradition is the same. You are here on purpose. You arrived with intention, and the life that has unfolded around you, the seemingly chaotic, often painful, sometimes incomprehensible life that has been yours has been shaped by a wisdom that is vaster and more patient than your human mind can currently hold. Think about the great teachers of history. Think about the figures whose lives have illuminated entire civilizations. Do any of them come to you in a story of effortless grace? Of smooth, uninterrupted arrival at their destiny? No. They come to you through furnaces. Moses was a murderer before he was a liberator. Paul was a persecutor before he was an apostle. The Buddha sat beneath a tree in what looked, to every observer, like defeat before the dawn came, and with it, the light that would ignite a tradition lasting 25 centuries. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in a prison cell, and from that cell he did not emerge broken, he emerged as the moral conscience of a planet. Every story of genuine transformation moves through the valley first. Every story, without exception. And I am not talking only about the famous and the historically documented. I am talking about you. I am talking about the version of you that sits in this moment, listening to these words, carrying the private inventory of everything that has hurt you, the childhood that did not feel safe, the love that did not last, the dream that did not come true in the form you expected, the years that felt like they were taken from you, the body that has struggled, the mind that has been its own worst adversary. I am talking about all of it, and I am saying to you, with every fiber of my understanding, that it was all preparation, every bit of it. The universe was not punishing you, it was shaping you. And there is a difference between those two things that is as wide as the ocean and as deep as eternity. Now I want to talk to you about something that the ego will resist with tremendous force. Because the ego, that small, frightened, grasping part of you that has mistaken itself for your true identity, the ego does not want you to believe this. The ego needs the wounds to stay wounds. The ego needs the story of victimhood to remain intact, because that story gives the ego its reason for existence, its architecture, its sense of a separate self that things happen to. The ego says, I was wronged, I was cheated, I was abandoned, I was not loved enough, I was not seen. And as long as you identify with the ego story, you remain inside a prison that has no actual walls, only beliefs. But you are not your ego. This is the first great liberation. You are not the frightened, contracted voice that narrates your life in terms of what has been done to you. You are the awareness behind that voice. You are the silent witness. You are what the great mystic Meister Eckhart called the ground of the soul, the place in you that has never been wounded, never been diminished, never been touched by any of the storms that have moved through the landscape of your life. The Vedantic tradition calls this the Atman, the self, that is identical to the universal self, Brahman, the ground of all being. Jesus pointed to it when he said, the kingdom of God is within you. Rumi pointed to it when he wrote, you wander from room to room, hunting for the diamond necklace that is already around your neck. You are already whole. You have always been whole. The preparation life has been offering you has not been the construction of something that was missing. It has been the uncovering of something that was always there, hidden beneath the accumulated layers of fear, doubt, conditioning, and identification with a story that was never really yours to begin with. I want to tell you about a tree. When a great storm comes, and the storms do come, we know this, we have all stood in the middle of them. The tree does not resist. The tree does not become rigid. The branches move. They bend dramatically, sometimes terrifyingly. They seem to be saying yes to forces that appear to want their destruction. But deep in the earth, the roots are doing something extraordinary. Every gust of wind, every act of bending and being moved is sending signals down into the root system, and the roots are responding by growing deeper, spreading wider, anchoring themselves more thoroughly into the dark, rich, invisible world beneath the surface. The storm that looks like it is trying to destroy the tree is actually the very force that transforms it from a sapling into something that can shelter entire generations. You are that tree, and every storm that has moved through your life has been growing your roots. I am reminded of what the great psychologist Viktor Frankl discovered in the most unimaginable darkness, the death camps of the Second World War. Frankl lost everything: his family, his manuscript, his freedom, his physical comfort. He was stripped of every external thing that could give a human life meaning. And in that stripping, in that absolute annihilation of everything the world says constitutes a life, he discovered something that could not be taken. He discovered that the last of the human freedoms, the one freedom that no camp, no tyrant, no circumstance can ever remove, is the freedom to choose how you respond to what happens to you. He called it the space between stimulus and response. And he said that in that space lives our power. In that space lives our growth. In that space lives our freedom. This is what preparation looks like from the inside. It looks like being put in circumstances that force you to find a freedom you did not know you possessed. It looks like being stripped of what you thought you needed, only to discover that what you truly are needs nothing. It looks like being asked again and again by the universe itself to go deeper, deeper into your own truth, deeper into your own courage, deeper into the extraordinary and indestructible essence that is your actual identity. And let us speak now about the concept that so many spiritual traditions circle around, that Lao Tzu describes so beautifully in the Tao Te Ching, the concept of Wu Wei, of effortless action, of non-resistance, of moving with the current of life rather than against it. Lao Tzu wrote, "The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao." And he meant that the deepest intelligence of the universe cannot be grasped by the analytical mind. It can only be lived. It can only be surrendered into. And when you surrender, truly surrender, not in the spirit of defeat, but in the spirit of trust, you begin to sense that you have always been moving in exactly the right direction. That the detours were not detours, they were the path. Think about what water does. Water does not force its way through rock. Water does not arrive at the river with a plan, with a strategy, with a rigid insistence on the route it will take. Water simply moves with total commitment in the direction of its own nature, and in doing so, it carves canyons. It creates valleys of breathtaking beauty. It finds the ocean every single time, not by fighting the landscape, but by yielding to it, working with it, moving through every crack and passage that presents itself, patient beyond all human measure. Lao Tzu said, "Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water, yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it." You have been water, though you may not have known it. Every experience that seemed to stop you was actually redirecting you. Every wall you met was showing you a passage you had not yet noticed. Every apparent ending was a door. And on the other side of that door, always, always, was something you could not have reached by any other route. Now I want to speak directly to the pain, because I believe in honoring the full truth of human experience. And the truth includes suffering. And the truth includes grief. And the truth includes those moments when the darkness is so complete that the idea of meaning feels like an insult. I have been there. I have stood in that place. I have known what it is to look at what has happened and feel not gratitude, not wisdom, but raw and wordless anguish. And I am not going to stand here and tell you that you should not feel what you feel. Your feelings are sacred. Your grief is real. Your pain has dignity. What I am telling you is that the pain is not the end of the story. It is a chapter that belongs in the book, that is essential to the book, that without which the rest of the book would have no depth, no resonance, no power to reach another human being in their own darkness. Your pain is not evidence of the universe's indifference. It is evidence of your depth. It is evidence of how much you have loved, how much you have risked, how fully you have given yourself to this magnificent and heartbreaking adventure of being alive in a human body. And here is the truth that the great mystical traditions all agree on. Consciousness does not grow in the absence of challenge. The soul does not expand in comfort alone. The deepest qualities that you most admire in another human being, courage, compassion, wisdom, grace under pressure, the ability to love without conditions, the capacity to forgive the unforgivable, none of these qualities are developed in the easy hours. They are forged, they are alchemized, they are called forth by the very experiences that the ego labels as tragedy. There is a word in Japanese, kintsukuroi, which refers to the ancient art of repairing broken pottery with gold. When a piece of pottery is broken, the Japanese artist does not try to hide the cracks, does not try to restore the object to the appearance of something that was never broken. Instead, the artist fills the cracks with gold, and the repaired object is considered more beautiful for having been broken, more valuable for its visible history of damage and healing. The Japanese understand something that Western culture has largely forgotten, that the broken places are not flaws to be hidden. They are the places where the light gets in. They are the places where the gold lives. You are kintsukuroi. Your cracks are not your shame. They are your story. They are the proof that you have lived and loved and lost and continued anyway. They are the evidence of the gold that has been poured into every broken place. And the person who looks at you and sees only your cracks is not seeing you clearly. The person who sees you clearly, including you yourself, when you are finally able to truly see, sees a being of extraordinary beauty, made more beautiful by every break, every repair, every act of continuing. Let me speak now about forgiveness, because I have always believed that forgiveness is not something you do for the person who wronged you. Forgiveness is something you do for yourself. It is the ultimate act of self-love. It is the moment when you decide that you will no longer allow another person's behavior to live rent-free in the territory of your own heart. It is the moment when you choose your own freedom over the satisfaction of holding someone accountable in the court of your own mind. And let me be clear, forgiving someone does not mean condoning what they did. It does not mean pretending it did not happen. It does not mean continuing to allow harm. Forgiveness means releasing the charge, releasing the story, releasing the weight of carrying something that was never yours to carry in the first place. The Buddha said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Every moment you spend in resentment is a moment of your life that you are surrendering to something that has already passed. The event is over. The person may have moved on entirely, but in your mind, in the sacred and irreplaceable present moment of your one living life, you are still standing in that room, still hearing those words, still feeling that wound open. And the only person who is suffering in that moment is you. I am not saying forgiveness is easy. I am saying it is necessary. I am saying it is the path. And I am saying that on the other side of genuine forgiveness, not the forgiveness you perform, not the forgiveness you announce to manage how others perceive you, but the deep, quiet, interior forgiveness that happens when you finally decide to put down what you have been carrying on the other side of that forgiveness is a freedom so profound, so spacious, so luminous that you will wonder how you ever lived without it. And here is the spiritual truth that underlies all of this. The people who have hurt you most deeply, the people who have caused you the greatest suffering, the people who appear in your story as the villains, they were also playing a role in your preparation. I know this is difficult. I know this can feel, in the first moment of hearing it, like a profound injustice, like I am diminishing what was done to you. I am not. What was done to you may have been genuinely terrible. What was done to you may have crossed lines that should never be crossed. I am not asking you to rewrite that truth. I am asking you to consider that even that experience, perhaps especially that experience, was given to you by a universe that knew exactly what it was forging in you. Some of the deepest wisdom I have ever encountered came from people who had survived the most unimaginable things. People who had been broken in ways that should have destroyed them and were instead transformed by the breaking. I think of the survivors I have met and the survivors whose stories have reached me through books and letters, people who will tell you with an extraordinary and humbling clarity that they would not remove those experiences from their lives if they could. Not because they were not terrible, but because of who they became on the other side of them. Because of the compassion they developed that they could not have developed any other way. Because of the freedom they found that could only be found by losing everything they thought they needed. This is the paradox at the heart of spiritual life. The Tao Te Ching says, to become whole, let yourself be broken. To become straight, let yourself be bent. To become full, let yourself be empty. Yield and overcome. This is not a passive philosophy. This is not a philosophy of defeat. This is the deepest possible intelligence about how transformation actually works, not through force, not through will, not through grasping and controlling, but through surrender to the larger movement of life that is always moving toward your highest expression. I want to talk now about the present moment. Because if there is one practice that has the power to immediately transform your experience of everything I am describing, it is this: the practice of presence. The practice of coming home to now, right now, this moment. The only moment that actually exists. Eckhart Tolle has written beautifully about this, and I have spent years sitting with these teachings, and the truth of them has only deepened for me over time. The past is a thought you are having now. The future is a thought you are having now. The only actual living, breathing reality is this moment. And yet we spend the overwhelming majority of our waking lives anywhere but here. We live in the past, rehearsing its injuries and reliving its glories. We live in the future, anticipating its threats and trying to secure its promises. And in all that time traveling and all that mental wandering, we miss the extraordinary miracle of what is happening right now. Right now, your heart is beating, your lungs are breathing, the body that carries you through this world, this magnificent, improbable, temporary, astonishing vessel, is performing 10,000 miracles simultaneously without your direction or effort or even your awareness. Right now, you are conscious, you are aware. You are the presence that is registering these words. And behind that presence, deeper than thought, deeper than sensation, deeper than memory or anticipation, there is a stillness, there is a silence. There is something that simply is, that simply witnesses, that has been here through every experience of your life and has never once been harmed by any of them. That is who you are. That is the you that no circumstance can touch. That is the you that needs no preparation because it was never incomplete. And yet here is the beautiful paradox. Even that you, that timeless, unchanging, whole and perfect you, is being expressed through the particular and irreplaceable story of this lifetime. And that story, with all its preparation, and all its preparation disguised as suffering, is the unique and unrepeatable way that the infinite is experiencing itself through you. You are not a mistake. You are not an accident. You are not behind. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not too late, too old, too wounded, too far from where you think you should be. You are exactly where you need to be to become exactly who you are being called to become. And every single thing that has brought you to this moment, every pain, every joy, every confusion, every clarity, every loss, every gift has been the universe investing in you with lavish and patient generosity. William Blake wrote, "No bird soars too high if he soars with his own wings." And I would add to that, no soul travels too far into darkness if it travels with the intention of bringing light back to others. Your suffering has not been wasted. Your years of struggle have not been wasted. Every single moment of them has been deposited in an account that you are now drawing from. Every scar is a credential. Every breakdown was a breakthrough in disguise. Every night of weeping carried in it the seed of the morning, just as the psalmist said, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." I want to speak to you now about your gifts, about the extraordinary and specific gifts that are uniquely yours, the gifts that could only have been developed through the particular path you have walked. Because here is something I know with absolute certainty. The things that have hurt you most have also gifted you most specifically. The person who grew up in a home without peace has often become the most gifted creator of peaceful environments for others. The person who was never truly seen has often become the most profound witness for other unseen souls. The person who was told they were not enough has often become the most powerful voice for the intrinsic worth of every human being. The wound and the gift are the same wound. The place where you were broken is the place where your most particular and necessary power lives. Rumi writes, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." And I have seen this not as metaphor, not as beautiful language to make suffering more palatable. I have seen it as literal and operative truth in life after life, in story after story. The wound is where the light enters. And the light that enters you through your wounds is the light you then carry into the dark places of other lives. Your healing is not only for you, your healing is a gift to everyone your life will ever touch. This is why I say to you, do not hurry past your wounds. Do not insist on arriving at the healed version of yourself before you have truly honored the broken version. The broken version deserves your compassion. The broken version did the best it could with what it had. The broken version kept you alive through things that should have been unsurvivable. The broken version deserves your gratitude, and then with gentleness and love, your release. Sit with what has hurt you, not to marinate in it, not to make it your permanent address, but to honor it. To say, this happened, this was real, this mattered. And then to say something even more powerful, and it prepared me. It prepared me for something I could not have reached without it. And I am ready now. I am ready to walk into that something, carrying everything this wound has taught me and nothing of the weight. There is a teaching in Zen Buddhism that says, before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. What changes is not the external circumstances. What changes is the one who is doing the chopping and the carrying. What changes is the relationship to the ordinary, the seemingly mundane, the daily and the regular. What changes is the quality of presence, the depth of awareness, the capacity to find the extraordinary in what the unawakened eye sees as nothing special. And this is what your preparation has been moving you toward, not a different life, but a different way of living the life you already have. Not a new self, but a deep and finally unobstructed relationship with the self you have always been. I want you to think about the concept of dharma, the Sanskrit word that contains within it the idea of purpose, of righteous path, of the specific and sacred duty that each soul carries into this world. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that it is better to live your own dharma imperfectly than to live someone else's perfectly. Your path is yours. The particular shape of your suffering is yours. The specific gifts that have been forged in you by that suffering are yours. And no one else in the history of the universe is equipped to offer to the world exactly what you are equipped to offer. No one. The confluence of experiences, wounds, gifts, wisdom, and love that has been assembled in you is without precedent and without replacement. This is not ego speaking. This is not the inflation of specialness that the ego uses to separate itself from others. This is the recognition of an irreducible fact about the nature of existence, that each point of awareness in this universe is genuinely unique, genuinely unrepeatable, and genuinely necessary. You are necessary, not in spite of everything you have been through, because of it. And so I want to ask you to do something. I want to ask you to look back briefly with new eyes at the difficult chapters of your story, not to relive them, not to suffer them again, but to see them from a higher vantage point, the vantage point of the soul, which knows that it is eternal, which knows that it chose this particular life and this particular time for particular reasons, which knows that it is being shaped, always being shaped, into something that will matter to people who have not yet been born. Look at the hardest thing that ever happened to you and ask yourself, what did that develop in me? What strength, what wisdom, what compassion, what capacity for love that I did not have before? What quality of being that I could not have reached through any easier path? And then, and this is the invitation, the gentle but transformative invitation, allow yourself to feel, perhaps for the first time, something that might surprise you. Allow yourself to feel a gratitude that is not gratitude for the pain itself, but gratitude for what the pain has made possible. Gratitude for the person you have become in the crucible of that experience. Gratitude for the gift that was hidden in the wound. This is not a gratitude that diminishes what happened. This is a gratitude that transcends it. This is the gratitude that the mystics speak of, the radical, unconditional, all-encompassing gratitude that says yes to the totality of your experience, that sees the whole tapestry rather than only the dark threads, that trusts the weaver even when the pattern is incomprehensible from the underside of the cloth. The Sufi poets understood this. Rumi writes, dance when you're broken open. Dance if you've torn the bandage off. Dance in the middle of the fighting. Dance in your blood. Dance when you're perfectly free. This is not instruction to perform joy you do not feel. This is an invitation to discover the dancer that lives beneath the story of the wound. The dancer that has been dancing through every experience, even the ones that look like the end of dancing. The dancer that is your essential nature, free, creative, expressive, alive, which no circumstance has ever truly interrupted, though many circumstances have made it temporarily invisible. I want to close by returning to where we began. Nothing in your life has been random. Everything has been preparation. The universe is not a cold, indifferent machine in which human lives are generated by accident and extinguished without meaning. The universe is, and I say this with the full weight of everything I have studied and lived and contemplated, the universe is a field of infinite intelligence and unconditional love, expressing itself through every particle of matter and every flicker of consciousness, moving always, relentlessly, in the direction of greater expression, greater beauty, greater awareness, greater love. And you are a part of that movement, a conscious, choosing, essential part. You are not a passenger in this universe. You are an expression of it. You are the cosmos become aware of itself in a particular and precious form. And every experience you have had, every joy, every sorrow, every confusion, every clarity, every wound, every healing, has been this extraordinary, intelligent, loving universe investing in its own expression through you. Has been life in its infinite wisdom preparing you for the moment when you would step into the fullness of what you are. That moment is now, this moment, this breath, this exact point in time, which is the only point in time there is. You have been prepared. You have been shaped. You have been given everything you need, including especially the things that felt like they were taking things from you. And the question that remains, the only question that has ever mattered, is simply this: will you step forward? Will you accept the gift of your own prepared life? Will you look at everything you have survived and say, with the full authority of your own soul, I am ready? I believe you are. I believe you have always been. And I believe that somewhere in you, beneath the noise and the fear and the accumulated weight of every story that has told you otherwise, there is a voice, quiet, certain, ancient, and entirely yours, that is saying exactly the same thing. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are exactly here, exactly now, exactly as you need to be. And the life that is waiting for you on the other side of your own full acceptance of this truth is more beautiful, more free, and more purposeful than anything you have yet imagined. Nothing was random. Everything was love. Everything was preparation. And you have been prepared magnificently for the magnificent thing that is you. There is a quiet voice within you that has never believed in your limitations. It has watched you doubt yourself. It has watched you shrink in rooms where you were meant to expand. It has watched you measure your worth against opinions, circumstances, and memories. And still, it whispers with unwavering certainty, you are more than this. You have no limits except the ones you believe in, not the ones your parents named, not the ones society rehearsed, not the ones your past mistakes seem to confirm. The only true boundaries in your life are the invisible lines drawn by belief. And belief is not a fact, it is a thought, repeated until it feels like truth. From the moment you entered this world, you were infinite possibility expressing itself in human form. You did not arrive with a list of deficiencies. You did not come stamped with labels of not enough. You arrived as pure awareness, as boundless consciousness clothed in a body, as a spiritual being having a human experience. And somewhere along the way, you began to forget. You began to listen to the noise. The ego loves noise. It feeds on comparison. It thrives on separation. It insists that you are what you own, what you achieve, what others say about you. It whispers, you must prove yourself. You must compete. You must defend. And the more you listen, the more confined you feel. The ego builds walls and then convinces you that the walls are necessary for survival. But the soul knows no walls. The soul does not compare. The soul does not compete. The soul simply expresses. It is like the sun, radiant, effortless, shining not because it needs approval, but because shining is its nature. You do not ask the sun for credentials. You do not demand that it justify its light. It shines because it is light. And you, at your core, are the same. The limitations you experience are not structural, they are perceptual. They are lenses you have unconsciously agreed to wear. If you believe you are unworthy, you will filter life through unworthiness. If you believe you are incapable, you will interpret every challenge as confirmation. The world will appear to agree with your belief because your belief shapes what you are willing to see. Change your thoughts, and you change the architecture of your reality. This is not a motivational slogan. It is metaphysical law. The universe responds not to your wishes, but to your vibration. And your vibration is the energetic signature of your thoughts. If you hold in your mind the conviction that you are limited, life will present circumstances that mirror that conviction, not to punish you, but to reflect you. The world is a mirror, not a judge. And the mirror is asking you gently, persistently, what do you believe about yourself? If you believe you are small, you will live cautiously. If you believe you are broken, you will seek constant repair. If you believe you are separate, you will feel alone even in a crowded room. But if you begin to believe, truly believe that you are an extension of divine intelligence, something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop asking for permission to be who you are. You realize that the same force that spins galaxies also beats your heart. The same intelligence that orchestrates the tides also orchestrates your breath. You are not a random accident in a chaotic universe. You are an intentional expression of infinite creativity. And infinite creativity does not create limitation as its essence. It creates expansion. Every desire you have to grow, to love, to create, to transcend is not egoic ambition. It is the soul remembering itself. It is the infinite calling you back to your own vastness. The discomfort you feel when you play small is not failure, it is misalignment. It is the inner knowing that you are capable of more. But the ego resists expansion because expansion threatens its control. The ego survives on fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss. It tells you that stepping beyond your comfort zone is dangerous. It tells you that dreaming too big will only lead to disappointment. And so you compromise. You negotiate with your own potential. You shrink to fit expectations. You dim to avoid criticism. You silence your intuition because it seems impractical. And yet, the quiet voice remains. It never shouts. It never argues. It simply waits. It waits for you to become still enough to hear it again, because the soul does not compete with the ego. It transcends it. There is no justified resentment in a limitless life. Resentment is the belief that someone else has the power to define your boundaries. It is the illusion that your expansion is contingent upon another's behavior. But when you truly understand that you have no limits except the ones you believe in, you realize that holding on to resentment is choosing confinement. Forgiveness is not about excusing others, it is about releasing yourself. When you forgive, you dissolve the belief that the past can dictate your future. You reclaim your creative authority. You say, I will no longer allow this memory to determine my capacity. And in that moment, you step out of the prison of history and into the freedom of presence. The present moment is where your limitlessness lives. Not in yesterday's regrets, not in tomorrow's anxieties. Now, this breath, this awareness. Right here, you are unbounded. The past is a story. The future is imagination. But this moment is life itself unfolding, and life is always expanding. When you anchor yourself in the now, you step into the field of infinite possibility. You are no longer defined by what has been or what might be. You become available to what is emerging. And what is emerging is always greater than what you have previously believed possible. The greatest barrier to your expansion is identification with the ego's narrative. I am not talented enough. I am too old. I am too young. I have failed too many times. These are not truths. They are sentences you have repeated. And repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity masquerades as certainty. But certainty is not the same as truth. Truth is expansive. It liberates. It feels like openness in the chest, like breath moving freely, like a sense of calm strength. Egoic belief feels contracted. It feels tight. It feels defensive. Your body will tell you which is which if you listen. You have within you a guidance system more sophisticated than any external authority. It is intuition, the soul's language. It does not shout commands. It nudges. It invites. It offers a subtle knowing. And when you honor it, you move beyond perceived limitations with surprising grace. You begin to act not from fear, but from alignment. And alignment dissolves resistance. When you are aligned with your higher self, you no longer chase success, you attract it. You no longer seek validation, you radiate authenticity. You no longer strive to prove, you simply express. And expression is limitless because it is sourced from infinity. Consider a seed. Within that tiny form is the blueprint for a forest. The seed does not question whether it is worthy of becoming a tree. It does not compare itself to other seeds. It does not doubt the possibility of growth. It simply responds to the conditions that support its expansion: sunlight, water, soil, and it becomes what it already is. You are that seed. Your beliefs are the soil. If the soil is rich with possibility, you will flourish. If the soil is dense with self-doubt, growth will feel difficult. But even in dense soil, the life within the seed remains intact. It waits for nourishment. Nourish yourself with thoughts that reflect your divinity. Speak to yourself with the same compassion you would offer a child learning to walk. When you fall, do not label yourself incapable. When you stumble, do not declare yourself flawed. Instead, see each experience as part of the unfolding. There are no failures in a limitless life. There are only lessons expanding your awareness. You cannot discover your vastness by clinging to smallness. And smallness is always a belief. The moment you question a limiting belief, you loosen its grip. Ask yourself gently, is this absolutely true? Often you will find that it is not. It is an interpretation. And interpretations can change. You are not required to carry yesterday's conclusions into tomorrow's reality. Imagine living as though you truly understood that you are an extension of the divine. How would you walk? How would you speak? Would you diminish yourself in conversations? Would you tolerate relationships that constrict your spirit? Would you hesitate to share your gifts? When you know who you are, hesitation fades. You do not need to become something new. You need only to remember what you have always been. The ocean does not need to prove its depth. It simply is deep. You do not need to prove your worth. You simply are worthy because you exist. Existence itself is evidence of value. The universe does not create anything without purpose. And your purpose is not a job title or a role. It is the expression of your unique vibration. No one else can express consciousness in exactly the way you do. That uniqueness is not accidental, it is essential. When you believe in your limitations, you withhold your expression. And when you withhold your expression, the world loses a frequency it was designed to receive. Your freedom is not selfish, it is service. When you transcend your own boundaries, you become evidence for others that transcendence is possible. You become a living demonstration that beliefs can change and that change transforms reality. You no longer teach through instruction alone, you teach through embodiment. The most powerful statement you can make is not verbal, it is energetic. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are infinite. It is the calm presence of someone who is no longer threatened by comparison. It is the compassion of someone who recognizes the same divinity in everyone they encounter. When you see others through the lens of limitlessness, you release judgment. You understand that their limitations are beliefs, just as yours were. You respond not with criticism, but with understanding. And understanding expands both of you. You are not here to be confined by fear. You are here to explore the edges of your potential and discover that there are no edges. Each time you step beyond a perceived boundary, you realize that it was never a wall, it was a shadow. Shadows disappear in the presence of light, and you are light, not metaphorically, but energetically. You are consciousness expressing itself. You are awareness experiencing form. When you align with that truth, fear loses its authority, doubt loses its volume, the need to control dissolves. You begin to trust life, and trust is the gateway to expansion. Trust that what is meant for you cannot miss you. Trust that your intuition is guiding you toward growth. Trust that every challenge is an invitation to transcend a belief that no longer serves you. Trust that you are supported by an intelligence far greater than the thinking mind. The thinking mind calculates. The soul knows. When you shift from calculation to knowing, you stop negotiating with your dreams. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You act from inspiration rather than obligation. And inspiration carries a power that obligation never can. You have no limits except the ones you believe in. So believe in something larger. Believe that you are capable of love beyond your fears. Believe that you are capable of success beyond your history. Believe that you are capable of healing beyond your diagnosis. Believe that you are capable of joy without justification. Because belief is creative, and you are the creator of your experience. This is not about denying difficulty. It is about redefining identity. Difficult circumstances do not define you. They reveal you. They reveal the beliefs you hold and the strength you can access. When you see every experience as an opportunity to remember your limitlessness, life becomes a classroom of awakening. You are not here to survive. You are here to awaken. To awaken is to realize that you are not the voice of doubt. You are the awareness hearing it. You are not the fear. You are the presence observing it. And the observer is always larger than the observed. Rest in that awareness. Feel it now, the space in which thoughts arise and dissolve. That space is you. And that space has no boundaries. Thoughts come and go, emotions rise and fall, circumstances change, but the awareness in which they appear remains constant. That awareness is limitless. When you identify with it, you are free. Free from the need to prove, free from the fear of failing, free from the weight of past definitions, free to create, to love, to expand without apology. And in that freedom, you discover something profound. You were never meant to live within the confines of belief. You were meant to use belief as a tool, not a cage. Choose beliefs that expand you. Choose thoughts that align with your highest self. Choose interpretations that empower rather than restrict. Because the moment you choose differently, reality begins to reorganize itself around your new vibration. You are not at the mercy of circumstance. You are a co-creator with the divine. And co-creation requires participation. It requires the courage to release old narratives and step into new possibilities. It requires faith, not blind faith, but experiential faith born from alignment. As you move forward, remember this. Every limitation you encounter is an invitation to question, to expand, to transcend. Do not resent the invitation. Accept it with curiosity. Ask what belief is ready to be released here, and then release it. You will not become limitless in the future. You already are. The work is not to gain something new. The work is to dissolve what obscures your true nature. You are infinite awareness in human form. You are possibility embodied. You are light remembering itself. And the only limits you will ever know are the ones you choose to believe. So choose wisely. Choose expansively. Choose in alignment with the truth that has always been whispering within you. You are more powerful than your fears, more vast than your doubts, more divine than you have ever allowed yourself to imagine. Step beyond the belief and discover that there was never a boundary at all. And as you step beyond what you once believed was possible, you may feel a moment of disorientation. That is natural. When a bird first realizes the cage door has been open all along, there is a hesitation, not because it cannot fly, but because it has forgotten what flying feels like. You, too, may hesitate when confronted with your own vastness. You may ask, who am I without this story? Who am I without this struggle? Who am I without these carefully constructed limits? You are freedom. But freedom can feel unfamiliar to a mind conditioned by fear. The ego prefers predictability, even if that predictability is painful. It would rather be right than be free. It would rather cling to a limiting belief that feels certain than embrace a possibility that feels expansive. And so when you begin to release your boundaries, the ego may protest. It may amplify doubt. It may resurrect old memories as evidence of why you should remain small. See this not as sabotage, but as transition. When darkness resists light, it is not because darkness has power. It is because light is emerging. Every time you choose to believe in your limitlessness, you are strengthening a new neural pathway, a new energetic pattern, a new relationship with yourself. The old patterns may echo for a while, but echoes fade when not reinforced. You do not have to fight your limitations. You simply have to stop feeding them. Every time you repeat, I can't, you water the soil of confinement. Every time you say, this is just who I am, you solidify an identity that may no longer reflect your truth. But when you pause and say, perhaps there is more available to me, you create space, and space is where miracles enter. Miracles are not violations of natural law, they are expressions of higher law. They occur when belief aligns with possibility rather than fear. They occur when you surrender your attachment to how things must unfold and open yourself to how they can unfold. Surrender is not weakness, it is trust in a greater intelligence. When you surrender limiting beliefs, you are not giving up control, you are releasing the illusion of control. You are acknowledging that the thinking mind does not have access to the full spectrum of reality. You are allowing the deeper wisdom within you to guide your path. There is an ancient truth that whispers across cultures and traditions. As within, so without. Your inner landscape determines your outer experience. If you cultivate thoughts of scarcity, you will perceive scarcity everywhere. If you cultivate thoughts of abundance, opportunities will reveal themselves like doors you never noticed before. The world has always been offering you more than you believed you deserved. When you raise your belief about what is possible, you raise your capacity to receive. Receiving is an act of self-worth. It is the declaration that you are aligned with goodness, and goodness is not a reward, it is your birthright. You were not placed here to struggle endlessly against imaginary walls. You were placed here to expand your consciousness, to explore love in all its dimensions, to create from inspiration, and to realize that the power you have been seeking has always resided within. Look at your life as it stands today. Every accomplishment, every relationship, every challenge has been shaped in some way by what you believed you were capable of experiencing. Now imagine what could unfold if you expanded that belief by just a fraction. Imagine the conversations you would initiate, the risks you would take, the dreams you would dare to articulate. The future does not intimidate the soul. It excites it. It excites it because the soul knows that growth is inevitable. It knows that consciousness is always evolving. It knows that no matter how confined you have felt, there has always been more within you waiting to emerge. And emergence requires courage. Not the loud, dramatic courage of grand gestures, but the quiet courage of choosing a new thought, the gentle bravery of questioning an old identity, the steady resolve to act in alignment with your higher self, even when fear is present. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the recognition that fear does not define you. When you stop identifying with fear, it loses its authority. It becomes a sensation passing through awareness rather than a command you must obey. You begin to see that fear is often a sign that you are approaching expansion. It is the edge of your current belief system being stretched. Do not retreat from that edge. Stand there, breathe there, trust there. Because on the other side of that edge is a version of you that is freer, wiser, more aligned. A version of you who no longer seeks validation from external circumstances because they have discovered validation within. You are not here to meet expectations. You are here to meet your essence. Essence is not concerned with comparison. It does not ask whether someone else is more talented or more successful. It asks only, are you expressing what you were designed to express? When you align with that question, competition dissolves. There is room for everyone in a limitless universe. Limitation is a product of the belief in separation. When you believe that resources are scarce, that love is finite, that success is exclusive, you begin to compete. But when you recognize that you are connected to an infinite source, you understand that your expansion does not diminish another's. There is no need to shrink to make room. The sky does not limit one star so that another may shine. Each of you carries a unique frequency. When you dim yours, the universe does not become brighter, it becomes less complete. Your authenticity is not optional, it is essential. And authenticity requires the courage to release borrowed beliefs. How many of your limitations were handed to you by someone else? How many were absorbed unconsciously from culture, from family, from past experiences? And how many of them have you actually examined? Examine them now. Hold them up to the light of awareness and ask, is this truly mine? If it is not, you have the authority to release it. You are not obligated to carry inherited doubt. You are not required to perpetuate narratives of insufficiency. You are allowed to redefine yourself at any moment. Reinvention is not betrayal of the past, it is evolution of the present. The caterpillar does not apologize for becoming a butterfly. It does not cling to its former identity out of loyalty. It responds to an inner impulse to transform. You feel that impulse too. It appears as restlessness when you stay too long in what no longer fits. It appears as dissatisfaction when you settle for less than your potential. It appears as longing, a quiet yearning for something more aligned, more expansive, more true. That longing is sacred. It is not greed. It is not arrogance. It is the soul calling you toward a larger expression of yourself. When you ignore it, you feel stagnant. When you honor it, you feel alive. Aliveness is the sign of alignment. When you wake each day with a sense of possibility rather than dread, you are aligned. When you approach challenges as opportunities to grow rather than threats to avoid, you are aligned. When you extend compassion to yourself and others without condition, you are aligned. Alignment dissolves limitation because alignment reconnects you to Source. Source is infinite. It is creative. It is loving. And you are not separate from it. You are an individualized expression of it. Just as a wave is not separate from the ocean, you are not separate from the divine. The wave may appear distinct for a moment, but its essence is the ocean itself. When you remember this, insecurity fades. How can you be insecure when you are an expression of infinity? How can you be unworthy when your very existence is proof of divine intention? Worthiness is not earned. It is inherent. The only thing that obscures your inherent worth is belief to the contrary. And beliefs can change. You have changed beliefs before. You have outgrown opinions. You have revised assumptions. The same mind that once believed in limitation can learn to believe in possibility. The same heart that once closed in fear can open in trust. You are not fixed. You are fluid. Fluid beings do not cling to boundaries. They flow around obstacles. They adapt. They evolve. When you identify with your fluid nature, you stop seeing yourself as confined by circumstance. You see yourself as capable of responding creatively to whatever arises. Creativity is the language of limitlessness. When you create, whether through art, conversation, problem solving, or love, you step into your infinite capacity. You tap into something beyond the thinking mind. You become a channel for inspiration. And inspiration does not operate within the confines of fear. It flows where belief allows it. So allow more. Allow yourself to imagine outcomes that once seemed unrealistic. Allow yourself to speak dreams that once felt too ambitious. Allow yourself to step into rooms that once intimidated you. Each act of allowance stretches your belief system. And with each stretch, you discover that what once felt impossible now feels natural. That is the journey of awakening. It is not a single dramatic moment. It is a series of gentle realizations. Realizations that you are not your past, that you are not your fear, that you are not your limitations. Realizations that you are awareness choosing how to experience itself. When you choose to experience yourself as powerful, you act powerfully. When you choose to experience yourself as loved, you radiate love. When you choose to experience yourself as limitless, you begin to live without self-imposed ceilings. There will always be challenges in the human experience, but challenges are not limits. They are invitations. Invitations to deepen your faith, to expand your resilience, to strengthen your connection to Source. The mountain is not there to stop you. It is there to reveal your strength. The storm is not there to break you. It is there to show you that you can stand in the rain and still remain whole. And as you continue walking this path of remembrance, you will notice something subtle but profound. The more you release limiting beliefs, the lighter you feel. The more you trust your divine nature, the calmer you become. The more you align with your highest self, the more effortlessly life unfolds. This does not mean life becomes predictable. It means you become centered. Centered in the knowing that no external condition can define your internal worth. Centered in the awareness that every moment is an opportunity to choose expansion over contraction. Centered in the truth that you have always been more than the stories you told about yourself. You have no limits except the ones you believe in. And belief is a choice renewed in every moment. Choose the belief that honors your divinity. Choose the belief that reflects your potential. Choose the belief that aligns with love rather than fear. And watch as the boundaries that once felt solid dissolve into open space. You are not confined by the horizon. The horizon only appears as a limit from a distance. As you move toward it, it moves with you, revealing more sky, more land, more possibility. Life is like that. There is always more available to you than you can currently see. Your vision expands as your belief expands. And when you dare to believe in your own boundless nature, you step into a life that reflects that truth. Not because the world changed overnight, but because you did. And when you change the belief, you change the experience. You awaken to the realization that you were never meant to live within walls of your own making. You were meant to explore, to love deeply, to create boldly, to forgive freely, to trust completely. You were meant to remember. Remember that you are not a fragment struggling for survival. You are consciousness expressing itself with intention. You are the dreamer and the dream. You are the creator and the creation. You are the infinite, choosing to experience itself as you. And infinity has no limits, except the ones it temporarily believes in. So release the belief and return to who you have always been.